A former AEW star has confirmed his exit from the promotion. We are ever closer to the WWE return of Bo Dallas, and is this rising AEW star set to sign for WWE? But first, be sure to subscribe with notifications turned on so you don't miss the latest pro wrestling news. But first, let's start by taking a look at if AEW broke the law by releasing the CM Punk Jack Perry CCTV footage. Tony Khan and All Elite Wrestling would set the internet ablaze this Wednesday night on Dynamite when they opted to air the backstage footage of the incident between CM Punk and Jack Perry at AEW All in London, the encounter that ultimately led to Punk's termination with cause and led to the owner of the company fearing for his life. Whilst the reaction online was mixed at best, we now have more on the internal feelings towards the move thanks to a report from Fightful Select, with some feeling that they wish that time had been dedicated to other talent on the roster, and Fightful would note, most of the reactions we heard were very tepid, with many saying it was much of what they expected and that it was a one-night ratings ploy. There was talk of the mood decreasing backstage at AEW Dynamite after the footage aired, more of the dread of social media bullshit than anything else we heard. Elsewhere in the AEW locker room, there were natural wish someone else would have got that TV time reactions. Several in AEW felt like it was a no-win situation after CM Punk's Helwani interview, him poking fun at Ospreay, Triple H poking at Ospreay, Michael Cole's reference to AEW, and Pat McAfee taking shots at Tony Khan and AEW. The report adds that the hope backstage is that the segment will benefit Jack Perry in the long run, in terms of his reactions in Chicago tonight for New Japan Pro-Wrestling, as well as his overall return to the company. The talent Fightful spoke to didn't feel the segment was a company killer, finding the online reaction mostly hyperbolic. Prior to the report dropping, Wade Keller of PW Torch would claim that the Young Bucks themselves were against airing the footage, although according to both Fightful and Wrestling Observer, this isn't actually the case. And first, Fightful would say, regarding rumours that Young Bucks weren't in favour of the segment, we're told that isn't true and they were fine with doing the angle. Dave Meltzer, somebody with close links to the Elite camp, were also able to confirm this, and he would add some more detail in today's Wrestling Observer newsletter, and he would say, it was Khan's idea, or at least management's idea, to do that segment, and while they do want to move on from Punk, they were not negative about it. Their reaction was that they were heels doing a wrestling storyline. It was not their idea, but they were not against doing their jobs as asked. The basic gist is they were given an assignment and tried to do it to the best of their abilities and were happy with how it turned out, and that they are villains on a television show and felt their role was to garner heat for the tag match. They have personally moved on from the Punk situation, and it felt weird to have gone back to the past, but were happy to try and turn it into helping their feud with FTR. We discussed yesterday whether the decision to show the footage backfired, concluding that it depends on if the extra eyes brought in could be turned into pay-per-view buys and ticket sales for the Dynasty pay-per-view, and it appears that AEW have at least achieved the first part of that puzzle. WrestleNomics have released the quarter-hour breakdown of this week's ratings, showing that the segment that showed the footage averaged 880,000 viewers, 449,000 of which were in the key demographic. This is higher than the typical trend for segments in the same slot over the last 90 days in both aspects. However, the viewership did drop to the typical rate for the FTR promo that followed, which brought in 822,000 on average, although the key demo was slightly higher than usual for the same slot, bringing in 426,000 viewers. Tony Khan would take to X to tout the success of the episode as a whole, although it remains to be seen if AEW will actually retain many of the viewers that tuned in that didn't last week, and Khan would say, just got the great news from TBS. Last night, Wednesday night, AEW Dynamite up 29% from last week, plus up 17% over prior 6-week average. Thank you all for watching AEW Wednesdays. The decision to air the footage clearly drove additional interest and talk online. Now we'll have to wait and see if more tickets and pay-per-view buys are generated for the FTR vs Young Bucks match itself, which will be the telling part on if this decision backfired, as will next week's ratings. Now, as mentioned earlier, beyond the business side of the move and the potential money drawn from it, it seems that there may be a potential legal issue unfolding that could come back to bite AEW and Tony Khan if it's pursued. Ever since the video of the backstage incident aired, All Elite Wrestling Wrestling have issued countless DMCA requests or copyright strikes to take down any footage of the incident from social media. This has been received by many accounts who've received legal takedowns from Jacksonville lawyers. Interestingly, AEW's own re-upload of the entire segment on their YouTube channel does not contain the actual footage, and only the Young Bucks and FTR promos, and we might now know the reason for this, as well as the takedown notices issued, this due to a potential law break. The first suggestion that we saw regarding potential legal ramifications was before the footage even aired, when CM Punk's lawyer Stephen P. New took to X to post a legal term that stems from Latin, which reads Lex Loci Delicti. Essentially, this means the law of the place of the wrong, hinting that AEW would need to follow UK law, the place that the backstage incident took place, rather than US law. In the United Kingdom, releasing CCTV footage for entertainment purposes is actually illegal under the General Data Protection Regulations, aka GDPR, and the law states, it is forbidden for CCTV operators to share footage of identifiable people with the media or on the internet for entertainment purposes. The only footage that is allowed to be released is if it's to identify someone for purposes requested by the police. Punk's lawyer has once again seemingly confirmed that AEW broke the law on X, responding to a fan who brought up the GDPR issue, and he would reply, I tried to warn them yesterday afternoon. Now, whether AEW's mass striking of the backstage footage is linked to the potential legal ramifications is still unknown, and it remains unclear if the UK police will actually pursue prosecution. With that said, it's something CM Punk's legal team could raise awareness to if they so choose, making this a potentially costly move from AEW and Tony Khan. And speaking of AEW Dynamite, we have the latest on Will Ospreay's jab back at Triple H and whose idea it was. Over WrestleMania weekend, Triple H would appear on the Pat McAfee show to discuss all things WWE, with one line from the CCO being taken as a knock on one of AEW's biggest signings this year, that being Will Ospreay. Triple H would tell McAfee that any wrestler that's opting for a lighter schedule, i.e. AEW, has no business being in WWE in the first place. And for context, here's what he had to say. When I see people trying to make it and they pick the job where they go, well, I work less and the schedule's lighter, okay, I'm glad I didn't get you, because if you're not in it for the grind in that point in your career, you have no business being here. Well, it looks like the former IWGP World Heavyweight Champion caught wind of this comment, with him responding on AEW Dynamite this week by joking about how Triple H got to his position by doing a different kind of grind, and Ospreay would say, normally I wouldn't rise to this type of bait, right? But seeing how the guy who said it is only in the position because he was grinding on the boss's daughter, you have no business telling me what the grind is all about, my friend, because you have no idea what I fight for. According to a report again from Fightful Select, rumors that Ospreay was fed the line by AEW management are untrue, and that sources close to the aerial assassin have told them that it was in fact his idea to shoot back at WWE's chief content officer. Will is even said to have proposed a jab back at CM Punk, who recently joked about Ospreay's Wembley attendance tattoo, but many felt this was overkill considering this was the same show that aired the All-In footage. Ospreay has been open in the past as to why he chose to sign for AEW, with one of the reasons being not to uproot his family from their home in England in order to accommodate the WWE schedule, which I think is a fair reason if you ask me. With that said, it's always fun to see the top two promotions taking shots at each other a la the Monday Night Wars. And next up, a former AEW star has confirmed his exit from the promotion. A recent report from Fightful Select would reveal that Matt Hardy had hit the free agency market, this after his All Elite Wrestling contract came to an end shortly after WrestleMania. Speaking on his Extreme Life podcast this week, Matt would provide an update on his current situation, discussing his options going forward. Hardy would confirm that his deal has now ended, and that he is in talks with various promotions regarding a potential move, including a return to WWE, and Hardy would say, Sunday night into Monday morning at midnight, that is when my AEW contract expired, so yes, I am a free agent now, just negotiating, talking, I have interacted with everyone, still interacting with AEW, and that's where we're at right now. Whenever my deal ended up running out, that allowed me the opportunity to negotiate and to speak to everyone available, really weighing all my options, and that's what I'm doing right now. Regarding a potential return to AEW, Matt would add that he is open to the possibility, although he wanted to see every option available to him before making a decision, and he would note, I think as time continued to move on and we were so close to the finish line, so to say, I do think I wanted to wait until everything ran out to see where I can weigh all my options. I can do things correctly from a legal standpoint and figure out what I want to do next. But where do you think Matt Hardy will end up next? Could a WWE, AEW, or even a TNA return be on the cards? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. And speaking of returns, it looks like we're ever closer to the WWE return of Bo Dallas. Ever since the Bray Wyatt Becoming Immortal documentary dropped on Peacock earlier this month, fans have been anticipating the return of the late WWE Champion's brother, Bo Dallas. This after the Uncle Howdy persona was seen turning the Eater of Worlds lantern back on at the end of the broadcast. During Wyatt's final run with WWE, he would be involved in a storyline with the Uncle Howdy character, who was portrayed by his real-life brother Bo, although he hasn't been seen inside a WWE arena since Bray's passing last year. With that said, the cryptic return clues have continued ever since the documentary was released, including a moment during this week's Monday Night Raw tapings that saw the lights go out before the song Nightbird by Marty Amado played, reminiscent of the early White Rabbit teasers that led to the 2022 return of Bray Wyatt. Well, it seems that Howdy has now managed to gain access to the WWE's X account, as a post would be sent out yesterday that simply said hello over and over again, a post that was quickly deleted. Hello, of course, being another word for howdy. It remains to be seen when we're going to see Uncle Howdy going forward, but it will be interesting to see if he returns in the same form as last time we saw him, or perhaps this time he will come back without the mask, revealing the identity of the man behind it for the first time on WWE television. Next up is this rising AEW star set to sign for WWE. Over the past couple of years, we've seen several talents make the jump from AEW to WWE, including Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, and Jade Cargill, with those three names being positioned as key players in their respective divisions. It appears that we could be set to see yet another jump across the wrestling border, with one of AEW's hottest rising stars potentially set to become WWE. According to a fresh report from SE Scoop, current FDW champion Hook is interested in exploring free agency when his current deal with AEW expires, with WWE expected to show an interest in the 24-year-old star, and the report reads, SE Scoops has learned that Hook, Tyler Senerchia, is interested in exploring his options in free agency once his contract with All Elite Wrestling expires later this year. A source familiar with WWE's recruitment strategy commented, I can see WWE clearly being interested in him. Hook is of course the son of former ECW World Champion Taz, who made a similar jump to WWE in the year 2000, where he would confront Kurt Angle during that year's Royal Rumble event. With that said, in Hook's case, I see it less likely that we'll see him challenge the top stars in WWE straight away were he to make the jump, likely joining fellow AEW alumni Shawn Spears and Lexis King in NXT instead. But what do you make of Hook's potential free agency, and do you see AEW giving him an offer too good to refuse in order to keep him around? Let me know what you think in the comments down below.